Hey everyone, this is SM Pratt, and today we're going to talk about our black labels in a bubble. I'm sure a lot of you saw that recent $11,000 black label Umbreon sale, and you're wondering what's going on. Is this real life? What even is a black label? We're going to talk about all that in this video. And if you have the short attention span, you want the quick Scantron M Pratt answer to, do I think black labels are in a bubble? Yeah, they're acting a little bubbly right now. I had to bust out the Squirtles because there's a lot of bubbles surrounding black labels right now in Pokemon. So I think a good starting point for this is, what is a bubble? That term is thrown around very loosely in Pokemon. If you go to Google, it's going to give you some super boomer answer, like an asset where its price exceeds its intrinsic fundamentals. Like Google, we're talking about a fictional squirrel mixed with a turtle vomiting bubbles right now. Like, we are talking about colored cardboard. So in my opinion, I think a better way to identify a bubble, not only in collectibles but in real life, is when you can't figure out to me, that is a better way to define a bubble. And I have a couple examples here to showcase that, starting with the housing crash that happened in 2008. You had this run up on prices back then. It was like the NFT craze where overnight everyone was a real estate genius. People were buying homes, flipping homes. I remember the same house probably had like 4 owners in a year because everyone was just doing it big, right? They were selling these homes with all this crazy demand. So naturally, if you were looking at that, you're like, oh, okay, is there a shortage of supply? That's why this crazy demand is going on. Actually, no, there's a ton of homes being built everywhere. Not a lot of them are actually being occupied, and all of them are split throughout all these investment funds, and they're almost being built just to support these investment vehicles. So when you look at, of course, in hindsight, that is the classic bubble, where you don't have a reason for why there's a run-up. Where if we contrast that with something like we had in English Modern a couple years ago with the Shining Fates ETBs, they shot up to about $100 in 2020, and that is because you had a lack of supply. All this new wave of interest came. Of course, with a little bit of time, more supply was added to the market, and the price cooled off. So in my opinion, something like that English Modern isn't really a true bubble, because you can identify the reasons why, and then those reasons are rectified, and then everything was copacetic. Where with the housing situation, that was an actual bubble because you were left with no reasons besides speculation. And that is where I think black labels fit. I think they feel a lot more like the housing bubble. So if we go back to that $11,000 Umbreon card, we had a sale a week later. More than $1,000 less. So that's back-to-back sales, and this is par for the course. As we do on this channel, we're going to do a little history lesson here, get you boomerfied with the first black label stonker that really took off was about 4 years ago. It was that Hidden Fates Charizard, went for $10,000, and that buyer was ultra confident. He was just coming in there flexing everywhere like, yeah, there's only going to be 10 of these total. I'm going to own at least half the pop or whatever. I think now there's like over 200, something like that, some crazy number. This is the merry-go-round of black labels. This is par for the course. I don't think black labels are actually about collecting the card or condition. I think it's all about just pure flex culture. I think it's the epitome of being stuck in the Safari Zone. Why I don't think it's about the card is because you can go get that same exact card for a fraction of the price. And you don't even have to climb that far down the condition scale. Typically, it's like, okay, if I don't want the mint price, I can go for like a light plate or something down there. I'm talking literally just don't get a black label. You could save yourself thousands, even $10,000. That's the biggest answer there for how it's not about the actual card. Because again, you can get this just in, you don't even have to really go down in condition. That's what's crazy. Just slightly, like 1 pixel over to the left on centering, and you're saving thousands of dollars. So that's one part of it. The other part is, I understand the idea of collecting condition. Obviously, a PSA 9 or PSA 8 looks way better, looks way cleaner than a PSA 4. I just got done doing my consignment video, and I had someone who submitted a lot of cards. They opened themselves from packs, graded, and by far, that holo is just super impressive. It's definitely noticeable. Even when I was just looking at them, I'm like, yeah, this holo's super clean because these came from packs. So there's definitely a difference there of like a mint card versus like a played card. However, when you start getting into the mint zone and you start really looking at everything, I think you tend to get lost in the weeds and you are in danger of losing the plot. Because at the end of the day, who really needs to have that pixel perfect card? And I don't even know at that point if you can identify truly, consistently, that pixel perfect differential. Why I say that is because how many of us can confidently say we understand the grading scale of Beckett below 9? Like, can anyone confidently say that? I'm not trying to throw shade on Beckett here. Just trying to keep it real. Like, can anybody for real tell me what the grading scale is consistently below a 9 for Beckett. That's why whenever we're talking about the Black Label, it's just one of those things where you're taking it with a big grain of salt. So I don't think it's about the actual card. I also don't think it's necessarily about condition. So what does that leave us with? I think it's more about the flex. I think it's more about saying I have the best of the best. I think it really caters to that flex culture. I think it caters to that loudness of the internet world that we're in now. The internet, and especially social media, has created this like atmosphere of like limitless high school, where it's like infinite high school for everybody. So this is the way to be like the king of the virtual playground. I got the best of the best of the best of the best chase card, and it's always like that too. You typically see it with a card that's not difficult to grade. Because I will say, if you had a Black Label fill-in-the-blank card that's tough to grade, Charizard First Edition, Chansey Shadowless, Pre-Release Clefable, T17, go down the line, pick your poison. Cards that are just really known to have a lot of condition issues, yeah, that's impressive because there's a challenge there. But a card that, when I sat down to record this video, I think there were 50 total Black Labels. And there's probably going to be more by the time this goes live. And then a year from now, when this product is still available in circulation, if not on the shelves nationwide, on the internet globally, it will still be out there to buy. There's probably going to be more copies of this down the road. So that, I think, to me, summarizes why this is not about the card or condition. It's about that flex. It's about being that king of the playground to a very absurd degree, to where it's just pure speculation. There's no rhyme or reasoning. It's like you've left the laws of gravity. Like you've gone outside of like everything. You're in space now floating around, because it really just doesn't have much to do anymore. It's almost like the collectible is a vehicle, a means to an end to that flex. And now don't hear this as like I'm trying to dogpile on people who do Black Labels, because there's so many other ways to burn your money into nothing. Like if you go to the casino, take that same 11K and put it on red and you lose it all in a second. Like there's a lot more you can lose. You can put it on black and go to zero. So at least with Black Labels, it's not going to zero. It's already just come down. And in the case of the Black Label Charizard, it went way down, like to $1,000, but it's come back up. So that is a nice caveat there, is that you won't go to zero like pure gambling, but I still think it safely fits that bubble definition. And I'm one of the last people to call something a bubble. If you go back to 2020, when there was all that noise and mania, I remember being like, hang on guys, we've had this before with new demand on previous supply. Once that supply comes in, it'll all be fine. We can all chill out and enjoy the hobby again. And sure enough, that's what happened. Just took a little longer because that was a ton of demand. But this isn't that. There's no way to say, okay, this is why, this is what's going on. And ultimately, I think it is being just really stuck in the weeds of the Safari Zone. Because the old adage used to be, buy the card, not the grade. Where this is not even buy the grade, not the card. This is like, buy the label, not the grade. Or like, buy the color, not the label. Like, it's so like Gigabrain now, because it's not about the card. You can get that same card in a slightly, not even that lower of condition, for a fraction of the price. And it's I know it's rare for a set card, but it's always going to be available. Charizard's always available. So Umbreon's also always going to be available. And you definitely don't have to pay $11,000 for that card. In fact, the market doesn't even agree with that. If you're still saying, well, wait, I think there is a premium here for these Black Labels, the market already disagrees. The market already said, well, the next one went for $9,000, 9 and change. And that's a week later. It's not like a totally different landscape. It's not like we're cherry picking and saying, okay, here's the 2020 run-up price, and then here's the new price from years later. Like, we're talking a week. Like, we're talking practice. Like, a week just flew by in this video. Like, my weeks now are like seconds. Like, time is like so subjective for me at this point, because I'm always busy. So a week is just child's play. Like, that's nothing. So that's what we're talking here. In 1 week, you already had 1,000 decay. And again, if we go back to the Hidden Fates Charizard, same deal. Started out at 10, kept coming down. I think it bottomed out at 1,000-ish or a couple thousand. And then it came up a bit from there. Give it a little bit of hope. But it still has not recovered to that price, because again, this is just major speculation. And to try to end this on some type of positive here, because I know it's very critical, because again, I think it is actually a bubble. But to try to give you a positive angle here, I know guys who throw down crazy money and gamble. I know guys who have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, we're talking like people who have probably lost money that would put you into retirement. This is better than that, at least. At least this is like, if you have that gambling itch, if you want to get the best of the best, like, this is better than that. But at the end of the day, I do think objectively, it is certainly a bubble. You know, the caveat here is if you have a card that's tough to grade, that Black Label, I think, holds more value. It's inherently more impressive because there's more of a challenge there. But when you're talking about these chase cards, it's always the Charizard, Reshizard. Now, the Umbreon's a new Charizard. I don't think many of us saw that coming. But the bottom line here, it's always that card that is not necessarily that hard to grade. If you go look at the PSA 10-9 ratios, it's not that much of a disparity there. So bottom line is, it's more about that flex, right? It's more about being that king of the playground. That's the vibe I get. But again, it's better than just putting it all in black on roulette and it ends up on red. At least you're keeping some value here. But there's my take on Black Labels. It's a very interesting thing we didn't really have until like the past 4 to 5 years. That's when you really started to see it emerge, and now it's definitely in stride. There's a lot of this going on. It's not going to go anywhere either. I think this is rife with internet culture. It's rife with flex culture. And again, I know that's inherently negative. I'm not trying to dogpile on it, but it just is what it is. Like, that's what this is about. Because again, if you want that same card, you can get it for like $10,000 less and just a lower grade, 1 grade lower. So there is my take on Black Labels. A little bit of a spicy one. So let me know, as usual, what do you think about it? Hopefully there's something entertaining, useful here for you. You know the deal. Let me know how I feel. That's pretty much it, guys. Till next time.